All right, looks like Michael is looking at a more acceptable hand this time around. It's still not phenomenal, but he does get a scry, and this hand has a lot more potential. He could draw into quite a few lands. I'm sorry, he has quite a few lands. He could draw into something like a blue source and an Emrakul, uh, and he could just power out a huge creature with that show and tell. Um, so he leads off on a Glimmer Post and goes up to 21 life, and and I'm sure he's shipping the turn over to JC here just a second, as I didn't see any. Oh, he's got a turn one turn one Pithing Needle. Now the deck lists are not made available to the other players, but at this point, pretty much everyone knows what everybody else is playing. So I assume it's either naming Deathrite Shaman or one of the fetch lands. Um, and I can't quite tell what he named there. Could also name Liliana of the Veil. That would be another good name. But it doesn't appear as though it was Deathrite Shaman. JC has led out with his. And a Cloud Post is the land drop for turn. Looks like JC has a couple of Wastelands. That would actually be another really good card to name with Pithing Needle as Wasteland, and we get confirmation that Wasteland was the name, as that is a pretty devastating card against the Titan Post deck. For those of you who may have never seen it, Titan Post or 12 Post, as it is more commonly known as, um, is actually kind of a excuse me, a ramp deck. It uses the locust lands from the Mirrodin blocks. Those lands being Cloud Post and Glimmer Post to to try and ramp into some colorless spells, namely the Eldrazi Titans, Kozilek, Ulamog, and Emrakul. And in this case, uh, I wonder. I'm a little curious why Michael chose not to use his Trick Bind there. I feel like that would have been a good spot to use the Trick Bind against a Wasteland. Maybe he is preserving that for something later. I'm not entirely sure what the reason is. But I've never played Titan Post. Played against it once or twice, but another another Glimmer Post gains two more life for Michael, and he still has no gas, no big plays here. Um, Looks like we might have an end to turn punishing fire. I'm not sure. I think it would be better just to use Deathrite Shaman in this case. There's a lightning bolt, um, and an activation of Deathrite Shaman brings Michael down to 17. Now, Michael having show and tell in hand means he is simply one gigantic monster away from putting JC to the test. Perhaps that trick bind is being held for I was gonna say perhaps it's being held to protect the tropical island. It may also be that he was trying to fend off a Liliana the Veil activation. And JC sends in with the clown. Again, I'm a little surprised to see JC not using the Deathrite Shaman's ability instead of attacking with it, but maybe JC doesn't have a whole lot going on his side of the table either, which certainly favors the 12 post player long term. And there we see punishing fire was the reason. It's a slightly more damage uh, long term, or sorry, slightly more damage to go that route than to to attack, or I'm sorry, to attack and go that route than to just activate Death Ray Shaman. Now, it looks as though an Emrakul has been found with that Sensei's Divining Top, and I'm pretty sure we'll see a show and tell here. Um, put the Emrakul onto the battlefield and really put JC to the test. Does he have a Liliana or not? Without an answer. Now, it's worth noting here that even a Liliana isn't actually a permanent or a final answer to the Ulamog, as Caracas can return it to his hand. However, JC can proactively use his Wasteland to get rid of that Caracas, and then he will be able to Liliana Edict the Emrakul away. It's like end of turn, we're going to exile the show and tell, or the trick bind. I think is probably the target, because that doesn't shrink the Tarmogoyf. Putting Michael down to 12, but then he gains a life, and then he's going to get punishing fired. So JC is just going the grind him out cycle. Now JC is under tremendous pressure here to come up with a solution to the Emrakul, and he does not. He simply has a bunch of lands and shows it, and he knows he is beat by that Emrakul. So to the sideboards we will go, and like a fool, I haven't pulled these deck lists up yet. Oh, here they are. I guess I did, I just didn't realize it. Well, I'm still a fool for not realizing it. But anyway, we'll start with JC's sideboard. He has one Pernicious Deed, which is maybe marginally effective against this. I don't think it's the answer you want. One of Toxic Deluge, which while it can technically kill Eldrazi, it is probably not the route you'd like to go. One Engineered Plague does virtually nothing. Chains of Mephistopheles is arguable. It does prevent things like Brainstorm and Sensei's Top draws from working, but that's probably not. I just don't think JC wants to play the super long game. He'd like to become a leaner, more aggressive deck if he can, which is unfortunate because most of his cards are geared towards making him the more long-term grindy deck. He has a one of Umaza's Jite, which is no good. Golgari Charm probably isn't doing anything. 2 Mindbreak Traps, which I don't think Michael ever plays 3 spells in a turn, so he's not going to be able to use that. That's probably exclusively for Oops All Spells and Storm. 2 of Grafdigger's Cage, which doesn't stop show and tell. A Singleton Fire Covenant, which similar to Toxic Deluge, I don't think is the card you want. 2 Pyroblasts. Now those we'll probably see. They are an answer to show and tell and Brainstorm effects. 1 of Scavenging Ooze and 1 Engineered Plague. So it really looks to me like the most important things are maybe Chains of Mephistopheles and a pair of Pyroblasts. And JC could consider cutting cards like potentially the Abrupt Decays, because they really don't have a lot of targets in this matchup. We saw it take out a Pithing Needle there, but as you probably noticed, even that isn't all that effective. And the rest of JC's cards are gonna have to just stay as they are. I think all the hand disruption's great. If he had more in his sideboard, I think it would be good to bring that in, but he doesn't. Sometimes you'll see cards like Duress in the sideboard. But anyway, on the 12 post side, we have 4 Leyline of the Void, 2 Force of Will, 2 Warping Wail, 2 Crows and Grips, a Moment's Peace, a Flusterstorm, a Swan Song, a Ratchet Bomb, and a Platinum Empyrean. In this case, Platinum Empyrean could actually be good. It's not a hard lot because JC does have ways to get rid of it in Liliana the Veil. But outside of Liliana, I don't know that JC, and maybe one Maelstrom Pulse, he could really deal with an Empyrean, and that could buy Michael a lot of time. The Moment's Peace is probably also pretty solid. It buys you at least a turn or two against a deck that's trying to race you. So that could be good. I don't really think the rest of these cards are super useful, and neither one of these decks has really got much sideboard for each other. A, because Titan Post isn't a very common deck, and B, because both of them are trying to do sort of the same thing. They're trying to go to the late game and be the bigger, grindier deck. The downside here for JC at least is that Michael's deck is just better set up to do that, both pre and post board. So JC's going to have to do his best to morph into the aggro deck, and hope he can get there on damage and wastelands, um, while sort of stifling Michael's mana development just long enough. But uh, it's possible. We'll see. We'll see how these games play out, and head back down to the match. I'll take a second while we have it here to once again thank our awesome host, JC's House of Cards, located here in Madison, Alabama. JC's card shop is just phenomenal. They have a huge selection of singles for Legacy, Standard, Modern, ED or Commander, sorry, EDH, which you know it by, um, and they keep it stocked. Like you never have to want for long uh, out here. So major thanks to them for once again hosting us and making this such an awesome event. JC immediately threw his hand back. It looked kind of land light and probably didn't have the correct mix of colors. Michael's hand, on the other hand, looks decent. He has the classic brainstorm with no shuffle, um, but maybe that's all he needs just to find a show and tell. Because I see he's already got the Emrakul, I believe. So just make it to turn 3 and force that to happen. We'll see if JC's 6 is any better. Looks like a lot of land, but if the scry reveals something good, like maybe a Dark Confidant or a Hymn to Turak, hmm. Although leading off on basic forest is not confidence building as far as Hymn to Turak is concerned. And looks like Candelabra of Tawnos was the draw, which I guess is a good turn 1 play. Uh, Michael is debating, although it will turn on JC's Abrupt Decay in hand, which I guess gives JC something to do with his mana for the meantime anyway. So he does go with the Candelabra, and JC's turn 2 play is a Thoughtseize, which hmm, given this board state, and knowing that he has an answer for the Candelabra, I wonder if you just just steal the Sensei's top here and leave Michael with a no fetch land um, brainstorm hand. It's not ideal, but it's not bad either. It also depends if maybe JC has another answer to the Sensei's top. I don't know if he brought in his Krosan Grips or something like that. He does in fact take the Sensei's top. Like we said, that leaves Michael with just the brainstorm, and it looks like his draw for turn was another Eldrazi maybe. Is that Kozilek? The new Kozilek? JC's draw. He paused for a second there, debating. Can't tell what that is. I sure hope that's not a Grafdigger's Cage. I would have assumed JC knew better than that. But we'll see. Can't really get a good look at JC's hand. I see a Wasteland. I know he's got a Grove of the Burn Willows as well. Might just be play a land, pass the turn. Next turn, he has the Bloodbraid Elf to maybe get some get some action. But he opts to go for the Wasteland to cut Michael off of colored mana. So the Brainstorm is coming in response. And there is a Show and Tell and a fetch land, so he can actually get his blue mana source back, um, which would allow him to play this Show and Tell, get out one of the Eldrazi Titans, and and maybe make a game plan. Otherwise, his hand is a little devoid of action. And we'll see what JC's follow-up is to this. I assume he's got some other play, maybe a Tarmogoyf or Dark Confidant to go with. All right, so Michael has finished resolving his Brainstorm, and JC has, maybe this is a Deathrite Shaman. Oh, nope, it was a Grafdigger's Cage. So potentially, JC does not realize that Grafdigger's Cage won't stop a Show and Tell, as Grafdigger's Cage can only stop creatures rendering the battlefield from the graveyard or the library, not from the hand like a Show and Tell would. But we will see. We have a Vesuva copying a Glimmer Post. We'll put Michael up to 23, and I think JC is going to have to scramble here to maybe find some action, something he can do against this. Hymn to Torak would be a good one, or maybe another Thoughtseize to strip out. Oh, there's a Thoughtseize, yeah. So something to take away that Show and Tell. Oh, but it looks as though maybe Michael has hidden the Show and Tell on the top of his library. Now, if JC is heads up about this, he will take the Emrakul to force the 12-post deck to shuffle and potentially get rid of that Show and Tell that he is hiding up there. But not sure if JC will sniff out the trap or not. He may just take that Engineer's Explosives as sort of a long-term problem that can deal with Pithing Needles and other types of spells. So we'll see. All right, so JC did choose the Engineered Explosives, not sniffing out the Show and Tell that's forthcoming. I think this may just be all she wrote. Kudos to Michael for the heads-up play there, keeping the Show and Tell hidden on top of his library. Now, it's possible JC has some sort of trick of his own, but I feel like it's probably too little too late. Let's see what each player does choose. One of these will almost certainly be better than the other. JC has nothing to choose, making this even worse. Now let's see. JC has something like, nope, just a pair of Abrupt Decays and a Bloodbraid Elf, and the Titan Post player takes this one in pretty quick fashion. 2-0 against Punishing Jund, and Michael Nolte, or Nolte, I apologize, Michael, I don't actually know how to pronounce that, but Michael advances to the semifinals.